Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with CW Silverberg, a host of Schmoozing Cruising, which is airing on HiFlix. Welcome. So nice to chat with you.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
So we met because Facebook said we should be, and now we are having this conversation, the way the world should work. So, how did you become the go to guy for Schmoozing and Cruising?
Well, what, you referenced the Facebook internet kind of pocket universe that we exist in, and we have shared similarities where we are representative of some sort of positive Jewish ideals and Jewish food. So I am a kosher keeping Midwest Jew from the great state of Minnesota, and I grew up keeping kosher, and it helped me kind of recognize how special and unique it is to be part of a community that keeps kosher around the country. And for many years, I always wanted to be able to tell that story. And Schmoozing and Cruising is a 30-minute television kind of format of that. It's I keep kosher. I'm a kosher keeping Jew in America, and it exists. How did I become that guy? There's a will, there's a way. I do not take any of the credits. Uh, God or whatever higher power you ascribe to, uh, has just really put the opportunities and the people around me. I'm kind of a happy fool of sorts, and I have these great ideas. I want to do these things, but I don't have the organizational skills like you do, Deb, and your book to put it all together. And so most of it, how did I become the guy? Is because there are wonderful people around me who have helped make it up that I'm the guy.
Well, and it really does leak into my other life as goal strategist and, champion of goals, because when you know the things that you love, you really bring that energy to you and the world finds a way for you.
Well, I'm all about the self-actualization of the goal. I'm of a certain age, which is 40 plus, where you kind of get a certain understanding that there are parts of the universe that you want to be in, and you have to kind of direct your energies to be in that part of the universe. However that happens. My goal was to be kind of this educational entertainment factor for a kosher keeping audience, maybe an audience that didn't really grow up with TV. And we've been doing this for almost 10 years now. And now Skyflix is really like an actualization of that goal. I'm now an international streaming television superstar.
As it should be. And so how did that partnership come about? How did they find you?
You
For
know what?
sure.
For many years, I was in the education game. I was a special needs high school teacher, and so I was trained to really distill information on different planes of you know, concepts and thinking. I had to make something be understood in ways that were not traditional. And I always loved cooking, and I grew up kosher in a non-kosher neighborhood. So everything was homemade, or if there was a bar mitzvah, we would bring in a non-kosher caterer to a kosher kitchen. I learned how to make an egg roll from Leon Chin in Minnesota, and that's a big deal if you're from Minnesota. But it's just a fun factoid. And I always wanted to cook, and so I went and I was able to. The teaching career was wonderful, and it is also underappreciated and doesn't pay not nearly enough in this country. So I was able to kind of pivot into a secret sandwich cloned in my friend's shop, which pivoted into catering. And I always wanted to kind of be like an Elton Brown or some sort of like, the Julia Child-esque of sorts. Um, and found a television producer. His name is Fikatel, and he is the most important person in my life. And together we have been making short documentaries just wherever the internet is sold about kosher and the kosher lifestyle. It's called Tripping Kosher. So Highflix saw that. Highflix saw our almost 10 years worth of of a library and understood exactly what we were doing and have given us the platform to expand on that into just a magnificent, magnificent experience, I hope.
Tell me what happens on an episode of the show.
So how does it happen? How does an episode of like that happen? How do we know where to go? There aren't a lot of kosher places in the country. There are maybe 1,000 kosher keeping outlets. And when we go to a city, we look up in all one, two, 10, maybe if it's a big kosher city. And we go to visit all of them. And we've done this for, I don't know, almost 10 years just to highlight the idea that I'm a kosher keeping Jew and I can eat a kosher hamburger in the city of St. Louis Park, Minnesota, my favorite example. So what are the show? The show's about all these great examples of that kind of idea and food that you'd be eating around the country. So it's called Schmoozing and Cruising, a trip through kosher Americana, maybe to reference our historical perspectives, but to also show that like this is as American as can be, but also a kosher, you know, Jew as can be. And so the first episode is about barbecue because what's more American than barbecue? And not like, hamburgers on a grill. We're talking like Southern smoked barbecue, which comes from a Jewish tradition in America anyways. I mean, if you want to doubt me, just think about it the next time you have a bite of a pastrami sandwich. Smoked brisket was what the Jews in Texas did. It's it's because it was a necessity. So our first episode explores that. That's the idea is to explore things that are about America. The first episode is about barbecue, and we go to Cleveland. There's a Kansas City barbecue guy who's a rabbi that runs a barbecue joint in Cleveland. We go to a place in Brooklyn who make like the best kosher brisket, or just the best brisket in New York. He's also kosher, but it's one of the best briskets in New York. We go to a girl, a wonderful woman in California, and she's got a giant smoker, and she runs everything. And then all the other episodes, kind of those themes of like American Jewish culture where they cross. So Hanukkah, you'd have a donut video because that's a donut season. Christmas we have the Chinese food.
Of
Uh, you know,
course.
so and there's some really cool examples, some really cool stories. A place in Vegas, a place in Florida that is run by boat people who escaped Cambodia and Vietnam during Vietnam War, and they ended up in the Mediterranean, and the only country that took them was Israel. So there's a community of Vietnamese in Israel. It's been around for 60, almost 60 years. Um, Fully Israeli, but also fully Vietnamese, and they have one of the best kosher dim sum places in the country. These are the incredible stories we get to tell.
So you theme up each episode. So it's not you go to one place to do one thing. It's you have the food as the topic and you discover all the secret places that serve the best of these kosher things.
Not about all the secret places, it's about the only places, and we're there to highlight what's special about them. There are towns and communities where we will go to a place and perhaps maybe spend less time talking about the food and more time talking about the place. And that means that maybe the food's not great, but it's the only kosher place for 100 miles. And that's what we're celebrating. We're celebrating the culture through a lens of positivity and using the food as the kind of as scene and setting.
So we've got similar themes because I'm about food, cooking, and community, as are you. What is it about those three things that unite us all?
Well, I think if you are part of the human condition, you have to kind of rely on those three things. That is the only way. And, cultures are all similar and different in the same idea and perspective that they all have the same inclusivity and family and lifestyle and surrounding of food and enjoyment of that and the celebration of that. But I mean, they're all distinctly different, but they're all the same. Like, I'm part of this culture and we celebrate by having a dinner, just like I'm part of that culture and they celebrate by having a dinner. And I think because we are distinctly part of that Jewish culture and that kosher distinctive corner pocket, we are the people of the diaspora. We have spent time in just about every single culture on the planet, and we have adapted the food to be kosher, and we live in a golden age of exploration and communication. And I have this opportunity where I get to try all those kosher things that you would never think would exist. That's really what the TV show is also about. That's what my whole lifestyle is about. In order to have a kosher keep community, you need to have certain things in order for the community to evolve and grow. I can't just go to a restaurant and say, "Hey, do you have kosher?" No, the whole kosher has to be, a whole restaurant has to be kosher. So usually you find if you have like 1,000 kosher keeping families, you'll have a pizza place, or 1,500 from kosher families, you'll have like like a fast food, Chinese, Russian, burger, all in one of those wonderful kind of take 'em all kind of fast food places. And because that's the community. We can't go anywhere else. Things have to be done differently in the service and rendering of this entire establishment for me to be able to even come in here. It's a different process. It's always done as a community event. So when you're aware of the corner pocket communities, you're aware of the food establishments also. I'm from a small kosher keeping neighborhood in Minneapolis. There's a couple places to go eat, but we grew up surrounding them. We grew up as them being part of our lifestyle. It's not, oh, I want to have a hamburger. Where should I go? It's like, oh, I want a hamburger. I have to go here. This is the place. It's it's different. So when you have larger Jewish communities, you get a larger expansion of things. All right, so how do we know where all these places are? Is because we're part of this tiny pocket community of keeping kosher. We're very well integrated. We have friends that live in every one of these single communities. We have cousins and family members in every one of these single communities. And we just, that's what we know. Like, that's what you get a bunch of Jews together, they're going to be hungry. It's just part of the lifestyle, and we get to explore it.
So you are the cross section of kosher in Americana, and that's what you're
I
putting the spotlight on.
I think so. Just this cross section of like I'm American just as much as I'm Jewish. Every other group has some sort of representation. It's about time you got some sort of wonky fella that talked about kosher food. Well, here we go. Thank you, Tyflix, for the opportunity. I hope you enjoy yourself.
So what do you like to cook?
Oh, so I had a catering this, we I had a catering company for a very long time. I specialized in live fire cooking. So this is very primitive, just lighting fires, letting things cook for a long time. And basically you're controlling fires all day, all night. And that's really how you're cooking. And it's kind of like my most bad. I just like lighting fires and chilling by a fire all day, and eventually the food is cooked, and that's really how I like it. But I do like to cook everything, and in order to be able to talk about something, you need to know the ins and outs. So every year, I will pick different parts of the world, and I will study those parts of the world, and I will cook those parts of the world to the best of my ability, just so I could learn the flavors and the processes and be able to talk about it on camera. I'm not necessarily the guy, but I've spent a lot of time learning enough to pretend to be the guy. And I think that, that's, if anything, that's my skill. But I've read a lot of books and I've eaten a lot of food and I've done a certain amount of cooking and I've had maybe 10 years of certain experience in the catering world and another couple of years in consumer packaged goods, which I've also worked with in the grocery store. So I understood enough to be able to do it on television. I didn't want to jump into it. I didn't want to be like, hey, look at me. Let me tell you. No, that's not our style. We are here to educate and entertain and have a great time. So, hopefully if you watch it, you understand they're like, oh, he kind of knows what he's talking about and he's really enjoying himself. And hopefully you walk away smiling and saying, I learned something new today. And you know what? I was entertained for 30 minutes. That is our goal.
And goal
Sorry, I'm a lot.
accomplished. Goal accomplished. Well, so one of my things when I started this show is I like to include a recipe in every episode because I don't think it's nice to make people's mouth water and not share a way to actually taste the food. So do you have a recipe that you love that is easy that will bring joy to our audience?
I grew up cooking, because we couldn't go out. And we really grew up with a lot of just that. My mom was my mom was way ahead of the curve in cooking energy. And so we always like understood like basic fundamentals were the most important. And I think, basic fundamental roasting a chicken, if you want to really impress somebody, you learn how to roast a chicken. And every single culture pretty much has a chicken and rice dish. So if you learn how to roast the chicken and then you do it over a pan of rice, you generally get chicken and rice. So that's my overall like applications to recipes is either it's a chicken and rice dish or either it's something that was a sandwich and I make it into a fancy dish or it's a fancy dish and I make it into a sandwich. Those are my cooking methods. I don't tell anybody. That's just what I do. You take a chicken, you season out the chicken however you want, and then you roast it in the oven upside down at 425 for about 45 minutes. Then you take it back out and you flip it over and give it another 25 minutes at 425 ish, whatever. You get a feel. I'm not like a recipe guy. I'm like a cooking guy. So just learn how to cook. So learn how to roast a chicken. And then once you learn how to roast the chicken, do it like that. You take rice and you put it on the bottom of the pan and you pour whatever seasonings, flavors you want in the rice, right? So if it's a Mediterranean chicken, you put artichoke bottoms and some tomatoes and some lemon in the rice and you stir it up. You put the chicken on top. You do the same method. Just 425. I think you have to make sure the liquid is hot. That is the trick. Liquid on the rice, 2-to-1 is the ratio. Put the chicken on top, let the rice and the chicken and the water kind of all cook out at 425. Chickens are the best.
But how do you turn a sandwich into a fancy dish?
Oh, super easy. Super
Okay,
easy. Give me a sandwich.
let's stay with chicken.
There's a million dishes you can do with chicken. Who doesn't? I love sandwiches and I also love fancy dishes. It used to be, you could still use the bread even or a bread component. So let's say let's say a chicken salad sandwich, right? So
Okay.
that's celery. That is a chicken breast that's poached. That's mayonnaise. All right. And then you have some sort of really good bread, maybe a rye bread and then some other things. So why don't you poach the celery? So when you take celery and you kind of take off the strings on the celery, you can really poach it so that it just kind of melts. And you have this beautiful kind of like a wilted, like kind of almost like a creamy celery. And you don't have to poach it in anything more or cook it in anything more than something just a touch, maybe lemony, because who doesn't like a lemony chicken salad sandwich? And then you want your chicken poach a chicken breast. You can shred that on top if you want. And then you have a mayonnaise component, which is really just an eggs component. So you can do a million different things. You can do a million different things with an egg. You can even make a fancy sauce and, whatever, like a bechamel or something. I don't know. Just you could play around. You could have a really great time. And most importantly is you always have to identify with the bread. I like seeded rye. I don't know. I like a chicken salad sandwich on a seeded rye. So I would probably throw some sort of caraway seed in there or make some sort of caraway seed cracker or some sort of caraway, not nothing. It doesn't have to be foo. It's just conceptually is what I do. I say, take a sandwich, make it a dish or a dish and a sandwich. I do soup and a sandwich.
It's perfect. Uh, is there something you know about cooking now that you wish you knew at the start of your cooking and schmoozing and cruising journey?
I think it's continuously learning about myself and or the rest of the universe is I'm not all knowing. I'm very happy to say that I get to learn new things about everything every day. And I think that's really more the joy of what I do is or the opportunities is to enjoy the spaces that I get to exist in where I'm hanging out in really cool places, man. I'm hanging out in really cool kitchens. I'm hanging out with really cool chefs. I'm learning really cool things. I'm cooking cool things. I'm getting to share that with an audience. That is kind of why I'm so excited about these opportunities is I love life and I want to share that love, that joie de vivre that exists for me in my tiny pocket universe and just say, hey man, I live a great kind of life in this little universe. Everything is special and everything is important about it. Please share it with me. And that's what schmoozing and cruising is all about. Just kind of share these wonderful opportunities, these wonderful stories of positivity, fun, food. Hi,
Well,
folks.
I think it's perfect with that philosophy that you landed on high flags. I mean, come on, high life,
That,
you
that's
it's
the whole
perfect.
my name in Hebrew mhm, is Chaim, which is CH, which means life, like L'chaim. And in my universe, we give creed. We give heavy creed to names and what they represent for people. We feel that names in Judaism are God given, and I think that maybe I live that life. You know what I mean? That is me. To life, to me, to life. The CW. This little show on schmoozing and cruising. That kind of joie de vivre, I think, is really important. My name is
Amazing.
Chaim. I live a life.
So, on that note, pun intended. Where can people learn more about you and the show and watch?
So
It's not
this
great
is very important. HiFlix, which is really home to, I don't know, 2,500 hours of content. We are creating the first, original content for them. And it is available at HiFlix.com, wherever HiFlix.com is sold. So if you have a Roku, you can get the little app, HiFlix.com. You have a smart TV, there's a little app. There's, internet. It's like any other streaming channel. They have other things too, a lot of other wonderful things. Watch us, watch them. Yeah, thank you.
awesome.
Chicktokosher.com, that's another place.
Fantastic. Let's leave on a little inspiration. So, what is like one hack for cooking that's going to get everybody through the holiday season and beyond?
The one hack that's gonna get through, so there is a very special, donut hack, whether you would, consider this a holiday hack or not. Instead of making the dough, proofing the dough, and having to patchke with the dough, you buy yourself some frozen Rhodes doughs, which are Rhodes doughs, which are, frozen yeasty doughs you just proof, and then you bake, and they're the best kind of dinner roll. They are fully kosher certified, and if you proof them and then fry them, you now have a donut. You're welcome for all your sandwich needs and donut needs and holiday fried dough needs.
Thank you so much, CW Silverberg, host of Schmoozing and Cruising out of High Flags, for joining me today on Taste Buds. And thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube and or your favorite podcast platforms. And you can go to jewishjournal.com/podcast to get the recipes and read articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Enjoy that schmoozing and cruising. And until next time, bon appetit.